Hustle and Faith to me, and that's a part of my tagline, is helping women to analyze, apply, and amplify their God-given gifts.
Hello, my love, and welcome to another episode of the Faith Based Storyteller Show, where we sharpen and encourage one another in Christ. I'm your host, Michaela Robertson, and thank you for joining me for another day, another week, and another opportunity for us to walk in the Lord's will for our lives. Now, today's guest who is sharing their testimony is LaTosha Johnson, and I'm super excited because this conversation is fire because we really get into productivity, we get into procrastination, we get into what it takes to truly focus on the finish line and hustle in faith. And so here's LaTosha's official bio. LaTosha Johnson is a highly recommended marketing professional with 15 years of experience as a content creator and voiceover actress. She owns her own consulting firm where she works with individuals and companies to create content and strategies to elevate her clients' business. Now, Tosha is not only that, but she is the host of a Christian podcast called Hustle in Faith, where she's dedicated to helping you find your trail to a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Within Hustle and Faith, they discuss topics like self-improvement, business, health, and fitness, and of course, random thoughts about life. And so without further ado, I cannot wait to introduce you to a dear friend, LaTosha Johnson. Welcome to the show, LaTosha.
Thank you so much, Michaela. Thank you for having me on the show.
I am so excited to chat with you. We've already chatted offline for like a good 30 minutes, but I'm excited to continue this conversation with the people.
Yes.
And I can't wait to dive into your story. But first, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and tell the people who you are and what it is God's gifted you to do.
Sure. Like you said, my name is LaTosha Johnson, born and raised in the Chicagoland area. My background's in marketing and communication. Yeah, I've been in that field for, oh, good gracious, close to like 20 years now.
Okay.
Dating myself. Uh, but I enjoy what I do, but I enjoy even more so, my motto has always been work to live, not live to work. So I enjoy my 9 to 5, but I enjoy my passions outside of my 9 to 5 even more. So I host the Hustle and Faith podcast. I do voiceover work. I also, every other Sunday, I teach English to adults overseas. I've been doing that for several years.
Nice.
I study Spanish and I love archery. So that's me in the background. Yeah, I know that archery one gets...
¿Habla español?
Sí, hablo español también. Entiendo español lo que hablo.
Okay. See, I can speak it, but I can't understand it. But we got.
I thought I'm like, hey, we gonna switch over to Spanish. All right, let's do
You know what? I'm gonna get there one day. I'm gonna go to the classes where you're teaching adults Spanish so that I can figure out how to get this together. And first off, I didn't know you were in Chicago because I'm from Detroit.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I did not know you were from Detroit. Okay. We have even more to talk about offline too.
We do.
It's awesome. Okay, very cool.
Yes. Okay. So I'm excited about this because, like I said, we didn't talked, and
we did.
Like we need to bring y'all into the conversation. And so, LaTosha, take us back. I know you are a marketing professional. You have this amazing podcast, but take us back to where the gift first started. When did you realize that God had gifted you to speak and use your voice?
You know what? It's so funny that you say that because even as a high schooler, I was a nerd, man. I was a nerd and I was just embracing that. I was like captain of the speech team and my teachers, you too?
Me too. I was on the debate team.
Oh, get on it. Oh my goodness. We have so much in common. This is hilarious. Okay. That was like a random comment, but
I know.
Nerds together.
I know.
Okay. So my teachers were always like, oh, you should go into broadcasting. You should go into broadcasting. My mom's like, I want her to go into broadcasting, but I also want her to have more versatility. So she thought, you know what, Tosha, I know, looking at the industries and how things were going, she's like, I want you to pursue marketing because I know you like data and all that other stuff too. So it's kind of a blend of both. And I was like, she knew what was best. And that's exactly what I did. So I went into marketing, but I still had that creative side to me because I wasn't always able to kind of like exhibit my creative outlet. Like I didn't have it. Like a lot of the roles was just kind of like straight up analysis. And so To make a long story short, back in 2018, I literally lost everything. I lost my job. I lost my savings. I lost my unemployment. I lost my apartment.
Mm,
I lost everything in such a short period amount of time. I was like the female Job. I was just like, what is
yeah.
going on? And so and like I said, I lost my apartment. I had to live with a relative for a little bit so that I didn't know how long it was going to take for me to get another job. It only took about a month and a half, but still, I didn't
Mhm.
know because I already lost the apartment, right? So during this time, I was so angry, frustrated, disappointed, but I discovered, I was trying to do all these different odds and end jobs to try to make ends meet. And that's when I stumbled into the voiceover work. And then
Mm,
I thought to myself, okay, because someone's like, hey, I love some of the YouTube tutorials you've done. Can you do some stuff for us? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Then that started kind of picking up.
yeah.
And then I didn't want my suffering to be in vain. So
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Let me start a podcast. Let me look into this. Everything I did was self-taught. I taught myself everything. The school of
Yes.
YouTube, y'all, shout out to YouTube because
Yes.
that is how this girl was able to figure all that out. And
Hmm.
so step by step, I started doing my podcast because I didn't want my suffering to be in vain. And that's where Hustle and Faith comes from. Hustle and Faith, that whole name is because throughout my entire life, I've always had more than one job. Even as like a teenager, I was like,
Mm,
sports job, homework. That was like it, because I wanted to have my own little extra money to do the stuff that I wanted to do because I don't come from a wealthy family. So, my parents did as best they could, with
mhm.
giving us what we needed, but that extra, like, do you really need that extra shirt? Do you want that? Go get it.
That's so good. Yeah.
So which I respect. I'm so glad that they imparted that work ethic into me because it is, you know, that's why I was able to survive as much as I've been able to. So Hustle and Faith, I realized when I lost everything, I had lost my way.
Mm,
I just assumed I'm like doing all these good things and God will just bless what I'm doing. You know,
mhm,
you see what I'm doing, right? Okay, we cool. And
mhm.
that's not what was happening.
Yeah.
I lost my way. I lost everything. So hustling faith means, hey, you can work as hard as you want, but it's all going to be in vain if you don't have the faith in me.
Ooh,
So that is where the name comes from.
that's so
And
good.
ever since, my life has just taken off. And when I mean taken off, I mean taken off in such an amazing way. Now, don't get me wrong, there have definitely been some detours, some ups and downs.
Hmm.
Um, but it's nowhere near where I was, and I have no intention of going back to that point.
Yes.
I learned my lesson and I'm going to continue moving forward. If I hit a detour, it's going to be because I know he's taking me to a new level. It's not because I forgot that he was in the picture.
That's so
Hopefully.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
absolutely. So
mhm.
I love this. I love this background. I love this origin story. I am so curious to know what it looks like to hustle in faith because in today's world, hustling, the term,
Yeah.
hustle, is such a bad connotation. And you already
Yes.
mentioned, like, if you're gonna hustle, you got to do it in faith. But what does that actually look like?
Yes. So what I mean by the hustle and hustle and faith, and a lot of people ask me that question. So I do appreciate that because I never in a million years thought hustle was a negative term. I never
Oh,
thought about that. I never did because you know why? I've always had an extra job.
oh, well, yeah, you was
So,
always
so
hustling.
I was always doing
Hmm.
that extra work. So hustle to me was trying to improve my life, not like trying to cheat
Mm,
anyone, not trying to work myself to death. I know that a lot of people may now I see that. I never thought of it like that. For me, it's always been kind of like a way of life. I've always wanted to
yeah.
improve myself. And so I've always been the person that after work, I would take a class, because many times my job would not provide which is ridiculous. That's a whole nother story. But many times my job would not provide the funds for me to do additional training. And I knew that I needed certain skills because I knew where I wanted to go in my career and knew long term where my goal was. I've always been focused on the finish line. So, however it looked for me to get there, if I had to take a class myself, if I had to, you know, stay up a little bit later to teach myself some of the editing, which I did, that's what I did. That's what I did. So I never thought of hustle as being a negative connotation. So if people are looking for an idea of what an ideal day looks like for me now, I've got my 9 to 5. I even time block when I work. So what I mean by that is the morning, that's when I'm awake. Okay. You're going to get fresh faced Tosha in the morning. As the day goes on, I'm like the Energizer Bunny, okay? Because I start to wane towards the afternoon, okay? So if you want to have like these deep conversation most of the time, like not, this is a weekend, so we good. But like during the week, if you wanted to have like these deep conversations, like, hey, we need to like take a look at some of these numbers, probably not the best time around 4 or 5 p.m. I'm fresh in the morning. I start my day off with prayer, exercise, all that stuff takes place between 5 and 8 o'clock in the morning. I work. And, if it's a tedious task, I use the Pomodoro technique. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Okay.
I use the Pomodoro technique.
Yes. Because that's the only way, like, especially because the analyzing data gets kind of tedious and boring sometimes. So, but I use that technique in addition to time blocking. And then after 4 o'clock, that is like my time. So that's when I look at my content calendar. Again, I'm pretty type A. I hate to say that, but whatever.
We plan things out. We plan like when we're taking showers and when we're cooking dinner and when we're resting and all the things. I understand. It's me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because you know what? That's just me. That's how I function. And so that's how I get a lot of my stuff done. So I take a look at my content calendar, and take a look at, okay, I need to tape a video. I need to do this. I need to do that. If I have a client, call for my consulting firm, because I have that outside of my 9 to 5, that's when I do my work. It's like I get a second wind, if you will. I take a little break. I'll go out for a walk or exercise because I do work from home, so I have that flexibility. But I get a second wind, and then I'm able to dive into my projects. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like I get this extra energy.
Oh, I get it. You're speaking to a fellow sister.
Yeah.
we may be the same person in different places. Yeah. I don't know. Like, we're the same person. You're speaking to someone who completely understands it.
Yeah.
I feed off of this. Like, this is my energy.
Yes. And this is me. So a lot of people are like, I don't understand how you're doing too much. And it's like, I'm not going to accept that. Like, people have a tendency to project, ironically, limitations that don't exist for you.
Yes.
Onto you. And I refuse to accept that. Like, what I do after work, I thoroughly enjoy. There have been times where I'm like, why are my eyes like so tired? And I didn't realize, oh, it's like 11 o'clock. I didn't realize that. Sometimes I do go to bed later. I've been trying to get better at that by cutting off at 9. But if I'm in the middle of a really cool interview that I'm editing, I will finish that puppy out, because if I leave, I don't know, like, I don't know what I feel like is going to happen, but I feel like I have to finish it out.
Yeah.
Because I may forget a certain marker when I come back. You know what I mean? So
just focus. Like, you are focused on the task at hand. It's like,
yes,
like hyper focus. Like, this is going to get done because this is amazing. And I also want it to get done. Yes.
Yes. So hopefully that answers your question, but that's exactly where I'm coming from on that. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. When it comes to the hustle in faith, what I'm hearing you say is that there's, like, just listening to your story, that you place faith in the finish line. And I feel like a lot of people can see the finish line and they allow fear to kind of stop them from moving. When you see like, oh, I'm going to get there, but in order to get there, I got to do this, and this, and everything on our list. And it's like, I think I'm just going to watch some Netflix for a good 7 hours. And then I'm going to, eat dinner, and then I'm going to go outside. And then, it's too late to do something today. So let's look at tomorrow. How do you stop, or what advice do you have for someone who may be focused on the finish line, but fear may be stopping them from starting?
Ooh, that's a really good question. To me, that's procrastination,
Ooh,
right?
so good.
That's procrastination. Like you're never fear is there, but the procrastination to me is what's taking over because you can still move in fear,
Mm,
right?
hmm
If you have the drive to do so.
mm,
So what you need to do is figure out what is stopping me from taking action. And it's you're procrastinating, right? And it's what it leads down to is time management. That's what it is. A lot of people, oh, I'm just scared to do XYZ. Okay, there's a lot of things that may scare you a lot of tasks that you may be scared to take on at the job, but you take it on.
yeah,
Why? Why? Because you know you're getting paid and you know that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're out, right?
yeah.
So I hate to say this, but if you take that same mindset and apply that to your faith life, you may
Yeah.
get somewhere because we're all motivated when we're at work, right? Like one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the folks that show that they're not as motivated don't last very long.
They're motivated to get out of there.
Exactly. I mean, in one
hmm
way or another, either they push you out or, you end up sputtering out on your own and then they show you the door.
hmm
But to me, it's procrastination. So you need to figure out, okay, how can I manage my time better? Because we all have 24 hours in a day. Okay. However, some people manage those 24 hours much better than other people.
hmm
And that's where I get frustrated when some people say, "Oh, it's like, well, when do you have fun?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. This is fun for me."
Yeah. Yep.
I like you like to binge watch Netflix for hours on end. This is what I like to do. And
Yeah.
what I like to do, and I'm not trying to, you know, belittle anyone, but what I'm trying to do is more productive and is going to be more fruitful in the end than binge
Mhm.
watching Netflix. I don't mind watching a show here and there, but you will not catch me hours on hours and hours on end doing that because that's not beneficial. It's
Mm,
not beneficial. You have to have a balance. So to me, it all comes back to time management and you're
that's good.
procrastinating. Fear, yes, that's one of the symptoms, but if you dig it a little bit deeper, I
It's
think
procrastination.
it's procrastination and time management, not so much fear.
That's so
That's,
good because I know in the Bible it talks about how knowing what you need to do and not doing it is a sin, which
mm-hmm.
exactly is procrastination when we know what we need to do and we
Yeah.
don't do it in the moment that we need to do.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in your life, um, how do you avoid procrastination? Like how do you really embrace immediate obedience?
Ooh, man, I'm still working on that. I'm
I
like
understand.
by no by no means by my answer have I arrived, but I've gotten a lot better because of how I set the tone for my day. So
Mm,
I make sure that I start my day off with Bible study. I do my best to exercise. Don't always make it to the exercise part. Don't judge. But but okay, all right.
mhm,
So I start my day by setting the tone first, which is making sure that I at least get my Bible study done in the morning. Now, I
mhm.
do try to study again towards the evening, but I don't feel as guilty because I set the day with him first in mind.
Yeah.
So it's all about prioritizing your schedule. I'm a morning person, so people are night owls.
I'm not a morning person. You're not going to catch me before 9 o'clock.
Oh,
I don't- 10 o'clock, maybe, but I need a
okay.
good 12 hours.
Okay. See, now I'm a morning person. I know, I know me. So I
Mhm.
make sure that I prioritize my time effectively. Like if I've got like my calendar, I live by that thing. So I know when I'm going to certain places, when I have interviews,
Mhm.
podcast interviews, when I have things that I need to do, and I just adjust accordingly. Now, don't get me wrong, I watch some Netflix too now, okay?
Hmm.
But what I'm saying is you have to have a balance. So if you have issues with that, the only thing that I really, really suggest is maybe taking a look at blocking time in your day. You really need to take a look at your priorities. That's what you need to do
Ooh,
first. What are your priorities? What are your goals? What does an ideal day look like for you in the future? You know what
hmm.
I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't realize in order to figure out what your future is going to be like, you need to start planning that now,
Yeah.
you know? So if you don't want to be working for 20, 30, 40 years, and there's nothing wrong with that if you choose to do so, but this girl has a second act that does not involve the corporate world.
I understand.
Um, so if that is your end game, you need to figure out, okay, what are the steps that I need to do now to get me from A to B?
Mm,
That's it. To me, it doesn't seem that difficult, but you need to stop procrastinating, take time for yourself. And this is why I tell people all the time, you need to invest in yourself. Because if you don't put yourself first, no one else is going to put you first. And that's not being selfish. That's just being, to me, that's being wise. It's
yeah.
risky to think that other people are going to have your best interest at heart
Yeah.
because they're not.
Yeah.
They're just not. And many people don't even have their own best interest at heart. So if
Yeah.
you think that you're going to be on their schedule, that's
Hmm.
not going to happen. It's just not.
That's so good. So good. So you specialize in marketing and communications, and you help people really tell their story.
Mhm.
How can someone discover their story? Because I feel like we are
Yeah.
listening to so many other stories and we are trying to repeat the stories that we hear.
Yeah.
But when it comes to marketing, it's storytelling and it's
It
really
is.
telling the genuine, authentic story that connects with the
Yeah.
audience. So, how can we identify our story?
You know, that brings me back to one of my favorite verses, and that's Psalm 139:16.
Hmm.
And that talks about how God has a book. We each have a book.
Mm,
Each one of us has a book. And in that book, he's written all the plans that he wants for each one of us to achieve. And
mm,
so, in order to figure out what's written in your book, and I mean this in kindness and love, you need to take time out for yourself. Take a day off, take a weekend, something to figure out what are my strengths? What, like, this is gonna sound so crazy, but like a mini SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are opportunities and threats that are preventing me from getting to the plans that he wrote down in my book?
yeah,
The only way you're going to discover what's written in your book and to discover what plans he has in store for you is if you get to know who you are.
that's
You
so
and,
good.
and you have to do that by just taking the time. People don't do that. They want everything instant gratification. And again, this is something that I continue to struggle with, but I've gotten a lot better. And honestly, I've gotten a lot more patient with myself. I'm in the middle of writing a book.
Ooh, girl, me
So
too.
it's so that has been teaching me to be more patient, to
Hmm.
be more intentional with my time, to figure out who should I be accepting advice from, who should be in my world, who needs to leave my world, because you
Yeah,
can't take everyone with you on that journey,
yeah,
you know? So
yeah.
hopefully that answers that one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When it comes to hustling and faith, it seems like it's all about living this better, happier, healthier life.
Yep.
Like prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your purpose, prioritizing your gifts and God, what God has put you on this earth to do, and then allowing yourself to not just like hustle as in like burn the clock out or do that, but like to move quickly in faith. Because
Yes.
you mentioned stopping procrastination, so we got to keep moving. But I
Yes.
think of when I hear hustle, I hear like my mom talking about hustle up, come on, keep it moving, keep it moving.
Yeah, see, and that's so funny. I never thought of it like that, but you're absolutely right. Hustle and faith to me, and that's a part of my tagline, is helping women to analyze, apply, and amplify their God-given gifts.
Ooh,
That
that's
is the
good.
whole premise of this podcast. And I do so by discussing business, self-improvement, and health and beauty. I want the whole person to be in a position to live the extraordinary life. That is what I'm all about. And the only way you can do that is making sure that your mind, body, and soul are aligned.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so adamant about making sure that I have it together. Because if I don't have it together, how can I help other people figure it out too? And,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, God wants you to pay it forward.
Mm.
He wants you to be a blessing, not just get blessed, right?
Yes.
You need to be a conduit.
Hmm.
So that's important to me. So that's why, this podcast is pretty much my baby. Like I make sure that the folks that come on, I handpick everyone that comes on. I thoroughly research. I
Hmm.
make sure that the content that I'm putting out there is something that I would want to receive myself,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah. Absolutely. I love this. Okay. I love this so much. LaTosha, where can people find you?
they can find me on the Hustle and Faith podcast, of course, but they can find me at hustleandfaith.com. I'm on all the social media sites. I recently launched a YouTube channel that is Hustle and Faith as well. So,
All
yeah.
right, you guys, you heard it. I'm also going to have it in the description. So make sure you go and check out LaTosha. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast because we subscribers around here and we don't just listen and leave. We like to subscribe and support. So make sure you guys subscribe to the Hustle and Faith podcast. And LaTosha, before I let you go, I have a series of questions that we like to call the rapid story round. So I'm going to ask you
Okay.
6 questions and I just want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Ooh, okay. All right. All
All
right.
right. So number one, you're here on the Faith Based Storyteller Show. Our motto is iron sharpens iron, one story sharpens another. How are you sharpening the people in your life?
Ooh, I'm sharpening the people in my life by showing my imperfections. I
Mhm.
share my imperfections. I really do. I make it a point to, hey, I don't have everything figured out. Here's some of the things that I'm working on. Now, I'm very good at having discernment in what I share,
Mhm.
but that's one of the ways that I go about helping out people is sharing my story, making sure that they know that I'm not a robot, making sure that they know that I'm not perfect. And it took me a while to get to where I am. So if you think I'm this polished person that's arrived, you should have seen me a couple of years ago, man, because it
I
took a lot of
understand.
work to get here.
I
Yeah.
understand. I mean, you told us you lost everything in 2018. For me, it was
Mhm.
2020. So it's a journey and we're constantly evolving and we are constantly growing and we are constantly hustling in faith to become who God created us to be.
Yeah.
So here
Yes.
for it. Okay, so we're going to walk you through your story method. You shared some of your story with us here on the podcast, but we have a method called the story method. It's STORY, strengths, technique, obstacles, relationships, and your why. So, what is one of the greatest strengths that God has given you?
Ooh, I would have to say resilience. I would
Why?
have to say resilience. And the reason why is because I've definitely been through some ups and downs
Hmm.
in my life, but I didn't stay down long because I at least took the time to figure out, okay, this didn't work. It's almost like I did a postmortem. Like I figured out what went wrong in order to figure out the solutions that I needed to make that situation right for me.
Yeah, it's like you did a SWOT analysis of your own life.
I did. I
Hmm.
did. So I would think resilience because a lot of people sometimes if they've been through a situation like I went through or, much worse situations, some people don't have that bounce back in them.
Mm.
They kind of automatically go to, and I'm not making light of this in any way, shape, or form, but some
Hmm.
people automatically go to the pity party method. And I get it. There are some situations, trust me, I was there. I probably would have thrown you one. Um, but you can't stay there
Yeah,
because if you stay there, the longer you stay there, you're not going to get to where you need to be.
so good.
You're not. So,
So good. The T in your story method is technique. So, what has God gifted you to teach?
um, I feel that God has gifted me to teach how to be resourceful
Mm.
because, like I said, I did not come from a wealthy family, but we always made ends meet. And I know that was due to my mom. Like she was always making sure that we were, that we look good and all this other stuff. But I knew for a fact that, I didn't, we weren't rich. but we always made it work. And it's always been with me, okay, if I can't go through the front door, I'm going to make a little baby window to
There we
figure out how to get to the other side. And a lot of people don't really think to look around for all of the different tools that God may have placed in your path to
go.
create that little window, because you can't always go through the front door. A perfect example is when I'll never forget this. I worked full time and went to school full time. So I literally, my college experience was not what you see
Mm-hmm.
on TV. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally worked full time. I worked from 8 to 4 and then drove downtown, and I went to school from 5:45 to 9 o'clock at night.
Ooh.
I did that 4 days a week for 4 years.
Ooh.
Okay. Still
Yeah.
graduated on time, got good grades, all that stuff. I'm doing all this thinking that, oh man, when I graduate, I'm going to get the best job ever. Da 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 da. Nothing.
Yeah.
I went a whole year with a big fat nothing.
Yeah.
I was working temp job after temp job, and I temp when I was in school, but I thought I was going to be hired on direct hire. Didn't happen. Went a whole year of temping outside of college. And I was throwing myself the biggest pity party because I'm like, what? But I had the piece of paper. The
Yep.
piece of paper is not
Yep.
magical. It's
Yeah.
not magical, guys. I just want to stress that. It is not magical. So how I got my foot in the door is I created my own company.
Mm. Talk
I
about it.
created I created a little virtual assistant company. And here's me, my little 21-year-old self going to these business commerce chamber of commerce meetings,
Mm-hmm.
hooked up with people there, taught them. That's when social media was first coming onto the scene, taught them how to use all the different tools. I networked my butt off, and then I was finally able to get my full-time job.
That's so
That's
great.
what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I could have just been complaining. I keep applying, I keep applying. My job literally came through me creating my own opportunity to leverage getting in the door. I'll never forget when I did my interview. What's this? This company seems like you're doing a lot. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm doing a lot. I'm doing it. And I thoroughly enjoy what I do. They thought it was a full-fledged company. Like, and I'm like, but my mom pulled me aside. It is,
It
Tasha,
is.
it is. You
Yeah.
don't have to have someone validate that you're a company just because it's not like big, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So resourceful is what I would be able to teach people, because I taught myself a lot.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to be in a position to save someone, having to go through the school of hard knocks.
Mm-hmm.
I could be your shortcut. So that's what I would say, resourcefulness.
That's so good. We're the same person.
Yeah.
I, for me, it was 6 years of not landing a job in my field and playing the victim and hosting my own pity party and having everyone else show up to my pity party.
Right. I get it.
And
I get
my
it.
husband told me to create my own opportunities. So what you see here started as a magazine, and it was a magazine company, and we released magazines, and we launched the podcast episode on accident when we went to interview one of our magazine covers, and all the cameras died, and all we had left was audio. And so now we're here today. So yeah, you have to create your own opportunities
You
because that is
do.
what opens the door for other opportunities.
That's true. That's true. Because it's just been going up ever since. So yeah, I get it.
Mhm.
Resourcefulness for sure.
I love it. Okay, the O in your story method is obstacle, but it's twofold because it's overcome as well. So, what is a recent obstacle in your life that you've overcome?
Irony in this question. No, I kid you not. Okay, so we were talking about this before,
Mhm.
but I am literally living in my dream condo right
Yeah.
now. So I'm on the lakefront. I can see it.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, got that from the voiceover gig. However,
Mhm.
I was a victim of a full gut rehab scam. So for the
Oh,
past 3 years, yes, long story. I will leave you the episode for that if you want to hear the entire story.
okay.
For the past 3 years, I have been literally living Luke 18, the persistent widow, going
Mhm.
back and forth to court, trying to get justice for my case.
Mm.
That is the obstacle I've been living with for 3 years.
Wow.
And so it's kind of funny you say that because I got another court date coming up. And I'm like, this is so insane. Like, who, if you listen to the story, it is wild. But it's that is what I've been going through for the past 3 years. I've been literally living that story. And I go to that story for motivation to continue because they want me to give up. And it's like, no, I'm not going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving up. Like you guys lied about certain aspects, not certain aspects, you lied about a lot. And I want justice. And just like that widow, I just keep going back, keep going back, keep going back. I'm not going away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going away. So that, yeah, that would definitely be one. It's so funny you asked that because I'm like, whoa, that is so crazy.
Holy Spirit be leading things. He be
Hmm.
leading.
Yeah.
I I love the I just love the connection that the Holy Spirit always has. He always likes to pull some things out. But
Yeah.
the R in your story method is relationship. So what does it look like in your life to build a relationship with Christ?
What that looks like is me coming to him. Listen, I know I don't have it all together. I get it.
None of us do.
It right. But at the same time, I'm like, can I have a Cliff Notes version of what it is that you need from me? Because I'm tired. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
little tired. Okay. So I feel like I've been on that like trial and tribulation package for like a little while. So I just want to be on that soft life package. That's the one I'm looking to be towards.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that said, um, I my relationship with him has gotten much stronger because I'm willing to get rid of my imperfections a lot quicker. I'm
Mm-hmm.
willing to apologize. Okay, I get it. Okay, I understand. I did this wrong. I should do this. I should have done it this way. Oh, I should have looked at that person and said XYZ and not allowed, ooh, I don't know how they're going to take it. Because sometimes I have a tendency to overanalyze things. And I think about, oh, how is that person going to take it if I say XYZ? And then sometimes I may just let the moment pass.
Yeah.
And then he reminds me, you really should have said that,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I think my relationship has gotten stronger
Mm-hmm.
because I'm willing to acknowledge that I have the imperfection to begin with. Because, we all got a little bit of ego in us. I'm like, hey, I'm doing good, and some of us, myself included, may use other people as a standard. Well, I'm doing good because could have been like this guy, or it could have been like this person. And it's like that person wasn't supposed to be the standard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the standard. And if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
compare yourself to me, you ain't doing so hot.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of like where I'm coming from in terms of the relationship, just making sure that I learn the lessons quicker. That's it.
That's
That's
good.
it.
Well, LaTosha, my last question for you is your why. Why do you believe that God has called you to do what you're doing?
I think he's called me to do what I'm doing because it's been a journey to get here. And some people are not as open to sharing the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, here's my highlight reel. And you don't know how they got to the highlight reel.
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're going to see all the little potholes that I took
Mm-hmm.
to get to where I am. I have no problem sharing the good and the bad with my life. It pretty much is an open book. I want my life to be used in order to motivate people.
Yeah.
I want people to feel comfortable talking to me. If you've got questions, if I can be in a position to help you, I'm going to do so. And I want you to feel comfortable coming to me to get that answer. I don't want you to sit up here and think, oh, I don't know. I don't know if she's approachable. Like you're never going to get that from me. Like if you put yourself out there, I'm going to put myself out there too. You
That's
know what
good.
I mean? You're going to get an answer from me. And it's so funny because I've had people, you seem really cool. And I know especially at work, because at work it's kind of different. You know what I mean? Like at work, the corporate world is like you may get a different Tosh. I don't know what I mean by that, but it's just like when I'm at work, I stay more to myself. So sometimes people may perceive that, oh, she's being
Yeah.
standoffish. And it's like, okay, but you're projecting. If you would have just had a conversation with me, you would have seen, oh, Tasha's actually pretty cool. It's just I'm not one of those people that's going to be going out there, especially on the job, when I know how certain things could be perceived and whatnot. I'm just going to be who I am. But if you take the time to get to know me, I'm going to be there to help you. That's it. Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. LaTosha, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story with us and really encouraging us to hustle in faith, to seek a happier, healthier life and allow ourselves to, what did you say? Apply, amplify, all
Yeah.
that God has given.
Analyze, apply, and amplify your God-given gifts.
Amen. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this.
All right, my loves, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. If it was a blessing to you, connect with Tosha, connect with her on all of her socials. I'll make sure that it's in the description box. And if you know that you are procrastinating, if you know that God has told you to do something and you have not done it, then you know that we're in sin, because we talked about this in that episode, that to know what to do and not do it is a sin. We know that we're in sin. So now it's time to course correct. Now it's time to prioritize what it is we truly want in life and to take our requests before the Lord so that He can then order our steps. It's time for us to write down our goals. It's time for us to really manage our time wisely. We are stewards, each and every one of us. We are stewards of the relationships that God gives us. We are stewards of the time that God gives us. We are stewards of the gifts and the talents that God gives us. And so it's so important for us to focus on what He has given us and to take that time to actually execute in the work that God has for us. It's time for us to hustle in faith, y'all. It's time for us to hustle in faith. So hustle up, hustle up. Let's get to work, and let's place our faith behind what it is that God called us to do. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend who you definitely know is going to be a blessing with, but share with a friend who you may not think it would be a blessing to. Any sharing of this podcast is definitely a blessing for us, and it helps us get this word out there. And on top of that, if you're looking for accountability to help you hustle in faith, if you're looking for a community that's going to help you really push yourself to do what God's called you to do, join us in Faith Audio Network. It's our free community where we focus on sharpening each other in Christ, as well as building up our faith and using our voices for God's glory. So you can learn more at faithaudionetwork.com. Well, loves, that concludes this episode of the week. I pray that I was able to bring a new storyteller into your life who you can then connect with. I'll catch you guys in the next episode, but until then, always remember that God loves you, and so do I. Talk to you later. Bye.